Coming to you live from the Brigitte Mabandla Justice College, I'm Ziyanda Ngcobo, and I'm bringing you the weekly wrap of proceedings that have taken place here at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. It's been 3 days of testimony from suspended Deputy National Commissioner Shadrack Sibiya in the hot seat, and his testimony is beginning to sound like a case of old friends becoming foes and some wanting to wash their hands of whatever responsibility they might have needed to shoulder when it comes to the now hot potato that is the disbandment of the political killings task team. Let's begin with those reflections. It was a day of reckoning for Shadrack Sibiya when he began his testimony on Wednesday. He's denied colluding and financially benefiting from criminal syndicates. He's also insisted that there's a political plot by the MK party with KZN Police Commissioner Ngcobo to discredit him. Sibiya also refuted testimony before the commission that he, along with Minister on Special Leave Ngcobo, attempted to disband the KZN political task team to protect criminal syndicates. Here's Junior Kumalo with those reflections.
Suspended Deputy National Police Commissioner Shadrack Sibiya has not only denied allegations against him, but dismissed them as a politically motivated plot that started over a decade ago. Sibiya finally appeared before the Madlanga inquiry on Wednesday after numerous witnesses implicated him of not only colluding with alleged cartel bosses, but also financially benefiting from this malfeasance. Sibiya dismisses all allegations against him,
so help me God.
Thank you. Claiming they are character attacks stemming from his time with the Gauteng Hawks in 2015.
In total, more than 20 criminal cases were opened against me by a task team established under General Ntlhameza and Crime Intelligence, forming part of unsubstantiated and focused campaign to have me arrested, removed from office, and publicly discredited. What I'm going through is just history repeating itself, because I'll be taking the commissioners through and say, as I'm taking to you, as they say, they will talk about it. 2 million here. Let's look at all the bonds that I have.
Sibiya, who in 2015 was serving as Gauteng Hawks head, was suspended for his alleged involvement in facilitating the alleged rendition of Zimbabweans in November 2010. In 2022, the Labour Court reinstated him. As such, Sibiya reiterates that the initial suspension and the litany of criminal cases against him demonstrates a political plot to have him fired. According to Sibiya, the allegations he now faces are a continuation of persistent political attempts to taint his character. However, he claims they are now being perpetuated by the MK party.
MK opened a case against me. The same MK statement is being used by a Brigadier Kunena to apply for a search warrant when my house was raided. The same MK is the one that also came and marched against me at head office. As I'm sitting in the office, you hear people toying in the street, this MK party. And then you get TikTok messages that say, you touch Mkhwanazi, you touch us, you'll see another July unrest you've never had.
As a result of the MK party's involvement leading to his suspension, Sibiya has told the commission that he's of the view that the party is working hand in hand with Mkhwanazi to discredit him. To substantiate his claims, Sibiya states that Nathi Nhleko, the then police minister overseeing his suspension from the Hawks, is now the MK party national chair. Sibiya also dismissed allegations that he jeopardized ongoing cases by withdrawing active dockets amid attempts by him and Minister on Special Leave Ngcobo to disband the political killings task team. Instead, Sibiya claims the removal of the dockets was at the behest of the National Police Commissioner Fani Masemula and Head of Crime Intelligence Dumisani Khumalo.
Any role that I played in the disbandment of the PKTT was undertaken solely in the course and scope of instructions issued to me by the National Commissioner. As I report directly to him,
The embattled Sibia also denies claims that he had a relationship with alleged cartel boss Vusomuzi Madlanga, nor that he defeated the ends of justice in relation to the ongoing kidnapping case of Pretoria-based businessman Jerry Bushoha.
I vehemently deny that I am or have ever been a close friend of Madlanga. Any assertion to that effect is false. No credible evidence has been produced to establish that I am friends with Madlanga.
Sibia is expected to continue his testimony until next week, Monday. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Junior Kumalo in Pretoria.
So Sibiya's first day and a half was spent going through his witness statement, but as soon as that was done, it was then time for cross-examination. And one of the issues that was delved into is the accusation that Sibiya purchased what is colloquially known as a grabber, which intercepts a cell phone communication. This would have been done during his tenure leading up the anti-corruption unit within the city of Johannesburg from 2016.
This is a burning issue at the city of Joburg. And every now and then I'm being accused of having procured the spying equipment. And I'm trying to give a background of all the things that led to me. I wanted the chair, and I want the public, and I want the city to know that it was not spying equipment. It was equipment that should monitor what is happening, all the crimes that is committed in the city of Joburg.
So the question then became, what exactly was the equipment that Sibiya bought used for?
You see, what I'm trying to get at is, would you plant something in someone's office to be able to see who they meet with and for what purpose? What exactly, how exactly would this machinery assist you? Because if you would plant it in people's offices, then obviously it would be a spying device.
No, we're not planting anything in anybody's office.
What did you do with the machinery then? That's what I'm trying to understand. How did it work?
Chair, we are talking about the equipments that are within group forensics, that should the chair says, can you please come and sweep the, where there's going to be a council meeting, and then they sweep the council meeting. Mostly we have to call SSA, or we could do it ourselves, because these are people who once worked at the SSA, who worked there as well, who were trained to use such equipment. So the capability was that they were all preventative measures, not spying devices.
But as a part of his testimony, Sibiya testified that those who were pointing fingers at him were actually the ones allegedly involved in corrupt activities. And in this case, his line manager, Fani Masimola, was allegedly involved in hiring those closest to him within his private office.
I have on numerous occasions received complaints from various members of the South African Police Service regarding allegations of nepotism and preferential treatment within the Office of the National Commissioner. I raise these issues because the existence of close familial personal relationship within a single executive office warrants scrutiny from a governance and oversight perspective. Not because such relationships are inherently improper, but because of the heightened risk they pose to objectivity, accountability, and the effective functioning of internal controls.
And Sibiya didn't end there. He maintained and was emphatic about saying that everything that he did in relation to the disbandment of the PKTT was on instruction from his boss.
The National Commissioner's complaint against me is not a bona fide complaint. It is contrived, selective in its focus, and premised on an incomplete account of the events leading to the disestablishment of the PKTT. In particular, It seeks to isolate my conduct from the broader institution and leadership context within which the relevant discussions and decisions occurred. The complaint further fails to engage with or account for the National Commissioner's own leadership responsibilities, including his prior knowledge of, participation in, and contribution to the discussions and processes that culminated in the disestablishment of the PKTT. By omitting this context, the complaint advanced a distorted narrative that improperly characterized routine operational engagement as misconduct, while deflecting attention from the National Commissioner's own role in the decision-making process.
And so while Sibia officially put it on the record that he had not been fully furnished with the documentation and statement from his accusers, including one from Crime Intelligence head Dumisani Khumalo, he did respond to what he said were some glaring inaccuracies. This includes that CCTV footage that Khumalo brought before the Commission of Inquiry, in which we could see witness F getting out of a white state-issued BMW, entering Katiso Katie Molefe's home on the 27th of November 2024. Now, witness F is seen entering the house of Molefe and then exiting a few minutes later, carrying a white paper bag that was allegedly meant for Sibiya.
General Khumalo testified before this commission that a white BMW, which he asserted was assigned to my office, was observed on 27 November 2024 at the residence of one Katiso Molefe, and that the driver of the vehicle was allegedly seen collecting a white paper bag from Molefe. I submit that that testimony is factually unsustainable. The white BMW in question was only assigned to my office on 4 August 2025. I attach here to a diary entry made on the very date the vehicle was received, marked SS32. The entry record not only the receipt of the vehicle, but also its condition at the time. Accordingly, at the time the vehicle was allegedly seen at Mr. Molefe's residence, it was neither assigned to me or my office nor under my control. The premise upon which General Khumalo's evidence rests is therefore demonstrably incorrect.
And still on the topic of witness S, Sibia says he finds it strange that he's the only one who's been linked to this particular individual, when in actual fact, he's not the only top South African Police Service General that witness F had access to.
It is notable that I am not the only senior SAPS official with whom witness F has a close personal relationship. Despite this, I'm the only individual singled out in an apparent attempt to advance a narrative of impropriety. This is especially striking given that witness F is equally, if not more closely associated with other senior officials, including General Sintumule and General Mkwanazi, yet no similar allegations have been leveled against them. I have pictures, bike riding, I have birthday parties where witness is together with these colleagues that I've mentioned. He's very close. He's a biker. He's a kind of a person, not because of his rank. He's a supportive person. When we have death case in the family, he's one of those people who say, how can I support? I will come and also support. Or if it's a person that you get used to because he assists.
All right, so just after the short break, we're going to take a look into this concern that's consistently been raised by some witnesses about the possible manipulation of the WhatsApp messages that have been brought before this Commission of Inquiry and other evidence such as the CCTV footage and voice recording of Vusumuzi Madlanga. We're going to chat to a digital forensics expert, Peter Fryer, about this not long after this. Do stay tuned to Channel 405. One, then I am on two. I don't have back support. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Fryer. You're speaking to Ziyanda Ngcobo. Can you hear me? Good evening, Peter. Hello, I don't know.
Yeah, can I hear Ziyanda clearly?
Good evening, Peter. It's Ziyanda Ngcobo speaking. Can you hear me?
Yes, Ziyanda, good afternoon. I can hear you clearly.
I don't. Oh, yes, I can. Thank you so much for joining us. Please we'll be with you in a moment.
No problem. I'm standing by.
Thanks for staying with us. You're still watching your weekly roundup of the proceedings at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. So one of the consistent concerns that's been raised by those who are actually giving their responses in phase 2 at this Commission of Inquiry is around how data has been extrapolated, in particular WhatsApp messages, the CCTV footage brought by Dumsani Khumalo, and a voice recording that was allegedly taken of Vusumuzi Madlanga when he was arrested in May last year. Now, this particular recording, we heard excerpts of it, which were brought by witness C. And Sibia was no different in echoing the concerns that were raised by Vusumuzi Madlanga at Parliament's ad hoc committee, in which he claimed that this recording may have been manipulated.
That recording has not been made available to me. I have no evidence as to how this recording was extracted or obtained. No information has been disclosed regarding its provenance. The circumstances under which it was recorded, the device from which it was sourced, or the manner in which it was preserved. There has likewise been no disclosure of any chain of custody, nor any assurance that the recording is complete, unaltered, or accurately reflects the original content. In these circumstances, the alleged recording is inherently unreliable. Its existence and purported content raises serious concerns as to authenticity, accuracy, and integrity, including whether it may have been edited, selectively presented, or otherwise manipulated. Absent proper disclosure and independent verification, it cannot reasonably be relied upon as evidence against me. Furthermore, I categorically deny that I have ever received, solicited, or accepted any form of gratification, inducement, benefit, or kickback from Madlanga for any other from any other person. Any suggestion to the contrary is false, unfounded, and devoid of any factual basis.
So let's explore this topic further because it has come up quite a bit in this second phase of the Commission of Inquiry. We're now joined by Peter Fry. He's a director at Risk Diversion, which is a firm specializing in digital forensics and cybercrime investigation. A very good evening to you, Mr. Fryer. I suppose my first question would be, is it even possible to manipulate how, for an example, WhatsApp messages are downloaded, or even manipulate a voice recording rather, to make it sound as if I, as Ziyanda Ngcobo, have said something that I have not? Good evening.
Ziyanda, to answer your question in short, it is theoretically possible to edit data once it has been extracted off the mobile device. However, it's worth noting that best practice dictates that you utilize forensic technology to extract information from mobile devices. And this process is performed in what we refer to as a read-only manner. So it wouldn't be possible to, whilst the download is taking place, to manipulate the data. The industry standard is that data that has been extracted off mobile devices is then put into a container file which is tamper-proof. However, once that evidence has been extracted from a mobile device, you can then export it into other formats. So an example would be that WhatsApp messages would be presented in a PDF format, and a PDF, as we know, is not a bulletproof solution in terms of presenting this kind of evidence.
So the concerns that are raised by some of these witnesses who are saying that, well, perhaps some of the messages may not have been downloaded in full, is perhaps there's credence to it in the sense that by the time these WhatsApp messages were downloaded into a PDF form, maybe I can remove the response that someone like Peter Fryer would have given to me in the context of a particular conversation.
Again, it would be extremely difficult and not within the average user's access. To provide you some context of how WhatsApp is stored on a mobile device, it's not stored in a format that's editable by the user. You would need access to the database within which these messages are stored on the mobile device. And mobile devices have an inherent level of protection that prevents a user from accessing the database and making any changes. So you would, in theory, have to first remove the database off of the mobile device, which again isn't within the general access that's permitted by a user, edit a message in the database, and then find a way to get it back onto the mobile device. So this typically would lead to a corruption of the database in which the messages exist. Now, accepted forensic practices mean that once I've extracted the WhatsApp database off the mobile device, there are certain clues that we would look for when analyzing this database, and that would include the revision of logs that WhatsApp itself maintains to determine if any editing has taken place of messages.
I mean, Mr. Fryer, I suppose this isn't you keep saying the normal person, so to speak, and we're dealing with allegations where we are dealing with top generals who are clearly pointing fingers at one another, so maybe they would have access to this kind of technology. So let me ask you this way. If now we are sitting possibly with a situation where information has been manipulated, would the Commission be able to backtrack and detect that this has actually taken place?
So the format in which the Commission is receiving the evidence means that some sort of extraction, transformation and loading of data has taken place. So what the Commission should be doing is going back to the wellspring, the original forensic image of the data that has been extracted, and viewing it utilizing the viewing application or the report viewer of whatever forensic application has been utilized to extract this data. So what we're seeing when viewing the evidence from a Commission's point of view are purported screenshots or exports that have been performed. Now, the process that would need to be undertaken is a verification of the technology that was utilized to extract these mobile devices, and then also extracting information from those applications and then reviewing whether any cross-verification has taken place from the extraction, meaning have multiple tools been used to extract the mobile devices and to present this evidence, and then verifying those results between the multiple tools. So, without getting too technical, there are several audit trails, logs that are maintained within the forensic process, and these tools maintain these logs to ensure that the integrity of the process is in a format that can be reviewed.
And tell me, Mr. Fryer, and I want to now move towards this clear allegation that's come from at least two people, that being Shadrack, Sibia and Mabandla, about a voice recording that they say was manipulated. Is there such technology that exists in which I could have had a conversation with you, it was recorded, but you manipulate what I've said? Or maybe another example is that someone actually pretends to be me and is speaking through perhaps a particular device, but it actually isn't me who was recorded and would have said particular things.
So Ziyanda, it's a very interesting concept. So within the realm of digital forensics, there's now a subset of digital forensics, which includes audio enhancement, forensic voice comparison, but then also the detection of deep fake. So you're aware the utilization of AI has been inserted, where you can then spoof a voice, and then by entering text into this application utilizing AI, you can mimic the sound of one's voice. It is within the realm of accessible technology. Studios are using it, advertising agencies are using it. However, there are some triggers within the audio files that allow us, from a forensic point of view, to determine whether we're working with an original, meaning is it a person's voice, or has some sort of AI come into play and a deep fake being created of a person's voice. So there's a subset within digital forensics where we're able to utilize specialized technology to determine whether deep fake is in play.
That's quite fascinating. So, I mean, without inviting you to get involved in the politics of the Commission of Inquiry, again, how would the Commission be able to track and verify whether or not this 5 to 6 hour recording was indeed Mabandla speaking on it?
So, Ziyanda, there are a select handful of individuals in South Africa that have access to the technology in order to analyze this particular file. So there would be various layers of analysis that would need to be performed, including but not limited to the structural analysis of the actual sound file. You're reviewing the internal metadata and then determining if AI was utilized. So there are certain traces inside of the audio file which will provide us insight, and you can receive a thorough report on the integrity of this audio file. That would include whether the file has been created from multiple audio sources, and that includes the analysis of the actual audio file and determining if ambient background noise is in play, if the file structure is typical to the device that was utilized to record it. And then, if, for example, a mobile phone was used, we're expecting to see certain things in the file format and the internal structure of that audio file, which will allow us to determine whether it is an original off of a mobile device, or potentially if it is audio from an external source such as a dictaphone, or even inserted artificially by utilizing AI.
Peter Fry, I want us to hold it there just for a second while we take a short break, and we'll continue this conversation on the other side of this about the possible manipulation of the digital data that has been presented as evidence before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. You don't want to miss out on the rest of this conversation. Stay tuned. Thanks for continuing to make Newzroom Afrika Channel 405 your channel of choice. We're still in conversation with Peter Fryer. He's the director at Risk Diversion, which is a firm specializing in digital forensic and cybercrime investigation. And we were talking about the possibility of manipulating voice recordings, as has been the accusation by Sibiya and Madlanga at Parliament's ad hoc committee, at least. And you had said that it is possible and there is technology, some of which is easily available to do so. But the other question then becomes, is it possible to manipulate recordings that have already been recorded? In other words, let's just say that they did actually conduct an interview with Madlanga, but they manipulated something that was already recorded and not something that perhaps would have been prompted through text or, a dictaphone.
Ziyanda, in theory, it would be possible to take an existing recording, extract the voices from that pre-recorded conversation, and then train an AI engine. The challenge, however, exists is to be able to reintroduce it as an original format. When you do manipulate an audio file, there are certain traces internally that will allow you to identify that certain things have taken place, whether it be editing that's taken place or stripping out a specific channel. As we're currently talking, this is a duplex or a two-channel conversation. So it wouldn't be difficult for me to strip your voice out of the conversation and then edit or overlay a second channel into this conversation, and then time and transcribe it. Again, we need to have a look at the origin of the audio recording. If it was something that was found on a mobile device, potentially sent as an audio attachment to a WhatsApp or an email, you need to have a look at where that audio file was located on the mobile device. And then through that, determine, is it typical of what we are expecting within the file system of the mobile device. However, if it was introduced as an external source, meaning provided on a memory stick, then file verification would need to take place. And I would say that audio clip would need to be treated with some circumspect to determine what the origin of it is. Is it an original that has been obtained from an audio device, recording device, such as the dictaphone or even a mobile phone, and moved on to an external memory stick? So the wellspring needs to be determined of this particular piece of evidence.
The source of the recordings is going to be crucial. Peter Fryer, the director at Risk Diversion, thank you very much for your time. Interesting times ahead as we can anticipate that more of those who have to come and answer to the allegations made against them may continue in the vein of questioning the authenticity of some of the data that's been presented before the Commission of Inquiry. I wonder how the commissioners are going to take this up going forward. But another aspect of Shadrack Sibiya's testimony this week, the issue of BBLs coming up once again. And you'll recall that there was talk, at least from Brigadier Rachel and Jeng, that a senior and high-ranking SAPS official did receive one. And you'll recall Jeng had told this Commission of Inquiry about her so-called romantic affair with Madlanga, but said that at least she had only asked for Ozempic and not a BBL. Well, Sibiya seems to have given us a name, and that is one Lieutenant General Hilda Kosi Sentumule, whom he basically told the Commission was duplicitous in more ways than one.
It has been alleged that General Sentumule personally benefited from Madlanga in circumstances that were not disclosed. These allegations include that certain elective medical procedures were performed by medical practitioners, the cost of which were paid for by Mr. Madlanga.
In fact, Sibiya says it was Sentumule herself that benefited on more than one occasion from Madlanga. He cited how the South African Police Service accepted 10 refrigerators as a donation from Madlanga, over and above him allegedly paying for that Brazilian butt lift. Sibiya also says, contrary to what Sentumule had told this very Commission of Inquiry, where she gave a glowing review of the PKT PKTT, he says his subordinate has previously expressed something else.
On numerous occasions during telephonic conversation between General Sintumula and myself prior thereto, she was openly critical of the PKTT. Especially, I recall a particular telephone conversation in which General Sintumula expressed the view that the PKTT was untouchable and alleged that, in her opinion, the task team was being used to siphon the budget allocated to it. She further indicated that she did not believe that the PKTT genuinely engaged in effective policing or delivering meaningful investigative outcome.
In fact, here is that very specific telephonic conversation between Sibiya and Sintumule about the political killings task team.
Yeah.
Under the guise of this task team.
Nathi sikhona lapha siyaphandwa lapha siyapenywa lapha.
Yeah, General. And ngiyacabanga ukuthi Natali, I'm sure we're busy because this is where these things are cooked. What I find embarrassing, and when I talk to people, sometimes we are complicit to crime being committed.
Yeah.
Which have been complicit because constable in about warrant, about captain, colonel, but lucky.
Oh.
So at some point there was an internet late, they relate.
Oh,
yeah, food. So
and we are not suspect that we imali.
I would suspect we are no NPA to 30 mali, but
ngithumela ushabalala.
Manje into engayi-understand ne ukuthi abakhuluma like bakhuluma ngathi benza into eziright like mina kuthi general ngafunda ukuthi uba isilima kuyanceda yabona ngoba mawusuka ubabonisa ukuthi uyabona kula wenza khona izitha so rather abacabanga ukuthi uhleli la abacabanga ukuthi uhleli khona but it's the same young Khumalo we busy. I asked him the other day ngimbonise ngathi ufunani wena la bathi ngimkuthathe ngathi uqashe ngawo cishe ngathi hawu so umkhwanazi ukuthumele ngala
ugijima ngami lo
so uthunyiwe because trust me at some point he was his driver ne mara ukuthi nje yela ungambona ufana no Lucky at some point I can't remember wathi no ngathi bayahlobana yabona. So I understand ukuthi the team wayengakhona ukuma sorry but it is because khona udoti nje abawupushayo that I can tell you because yini into enzima that's why ngithi that tomorrow sibize ukuthi ama-docket if as a court there's no need for team ukuthi hlala yenzani if case ya court niyabizwa niyasapuna nama-witnesses you understand niya on that day hayi ukuthi kumele lihlale ngathi ngilinde.
I think uconsultant no Lucky wathi no ama-docket wamalethela kini
but akakwazi angisho kune-instruction general
ukuthi aye kuwe.
Yes
yebo.
So which is why ngithi mina yabona ukuthi without ukuthi siveze ukuthi mina ngime kuphi asiyenza ohlala ubona usibize nje uthi hayi na instruction general Sintumule give me feedback yebo.
Yeah ngizombiza but angithi uzongitshela nje anginikeza i-excuse ukuthi akekho local or ukuphi angithi ubonile ukuthi yena siya-attenda wonke umuntu uyattenda yena akaveli yena
ufonile njengoba letha ama-dockets ngathi mina sonke base size khona John Ngcobo wathi yena hayi uke uhlale ofisini ngathi mina hey kumnandi kuba ngoba wena uvunyelwe uyabona.
Yena ubhizi uyazi ngokutshela babhizi bagijima ngami left right and center hot monitoring basizama amafoni wami ngapha nangapha ngiyathola konke lokho yabo.
But into ebuhlungu general ne ukuthi umgodi mina ngafunda ukuthi umgodi mawugubha Cha, akungeni lo mgubhelayo, kungena wena.
Iproblem ukuthi ngihlala nomphathi wami ongathi akazi lutho kodwa uyazokungena. Ngicela ukuphendula lokho lengenayo tu.
Okay, Jivel. Mina tekele, sharp.
So a little bit of gossip between Sibiya and his subordinate, Hilda Tumole, talking about Lucky Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, that they referred to as Lucky in that conversation, and Lieutenant General Dumsani Khumalo, and how they believed that the PKTT was getting up to shenanigans. Definitely not what Sentumole told this Commission of Inquiry when she appeared last October. I wonder what that means in terms of the credibility of her testimony and what the commissioners will do. All right, so we're going to take another short break, but afterwards we will reflect on the heated and sometimes tense exchanges between Sibiya and the commissioners during cross-examination. He was really grilled for how he handled the movement of the 121 dockets, which is basically why we are where we are today. Stay tuned. Thanks for staying with us, and we'll continue reflecting on the 3 days of Shadrack Sibiya in the hot seat here at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. And in fact, he had some very uncomfortable and, dare I say, very tense moments between himself and the commissioners. In fact, at some point, they told him that he did his own thing when it came to recalling those 121 dockets from KwaZulu-Natal to the headquarters of the South African Police Service here in Silverton. But still, Sibiya insisted that everything that he did was in line with the instructions that he'd received from his boss, Fani Masemola.
I feel oppressed, Chair.
No, feel free to comment.
I feel oppressed in a sense that this is an official process. It's not a private process. It's an official process coming from the minister to the national commissioner to me. We are all in it. Now, when the national commissioner chose to do something with General Khumalo, which he never alerted me to, he never said to me, leave it, I will do it, and then went and did it somewhere with General Khumalo when I don't know. And I kept on communicating and doing things, hoping that I'm doing that what the National Commissioner also expects me to do.
So that was one of those tense moments between Sibiya and the commissioners. But still, he was pushed on why the dockets were left untouched for months and where exactly did he get the implementation plan upon which he acted on.
It is only logical that for as long as dockets were in the repository, detectives could not access them as and when they wanted to. Is that correct?
It is correct, Chair.
Yes. That must mean during the period of storage, however short or long, investigations would be halted, correct?
It is correct, Chair.
In paragraph 84.2 of your statement, you say that the disbandment plan outlined measures to ensure that investigations would not be disrupted, correct?
Correct, Chair.
In fact, the assertion that these dockets were going to then be distributed within the murder and robbery unit came into question.
When you bring in that new detective, even in the circumstances that you describe, which are that this happens all the time, when you bring in that detective, they have to get used to the content of the docket. And if the content is complex and what needs to be done by way of an investigative process is also complex, that new investigator will take a bit of time to get used to that docket and also to know what needs to be done. Even in the circumstances that you refer to, which you say happen all the time, surely that must be the position. You can't walk in and within 2 hours you know what you need to do, not in respect of a complex docket and complex investigation. This is only logical. Do you agree?
I fully agree.
Yes. Now, do you agree that these two, in addition to the earlier disruption which you have accepted, do you agree that these two would be disruptive to the investigative process? The fact that in circumstances where you already had PKTT investigators, you halt everything and you bring in new investigators, that too was going to be disruptive to the investigative process. That is correct.
Yes.
And so this idea of the dockets languishing in the police's headquarters in Pretoria and them not being worked on also then saw the evidence leader questioning whether or not this also didn't lead to some form of miscarriage of justice.
What did you do then when it was transferred to the head office?
General Sintumule informed me that General Kumalo came, brought the docket, and then she put a team together to do a handing over. And then that's when I started saying, hey, let now this docket. That's when I wrote this letter that says now, because I didn't want it to waste time. I said, let it go, let this process be finalized within 7 days. Because I was trying to shorten even the date, the time in between, to say this docket must now reach where they must be investigated within a very short space of time. Now you can see that time for me, time was of essence. And so that we do this process and finalize it without any delay, further disrupting the further investigation of the docket.
That's not quite what is said in your letter of 22 April, because it says you're calling for the transfer of all dockets, again, closed, currently under investigation and in court, to General Sentumule. That's what you're calling for.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. So the point is, if the dockets are with General Sentumule and all of the evidence with General Sentumule, they're not being investigated. They're in a repository.
That is not correct.
And that's in fact what happened.
No, it's not what was supposed to happen. We are doing this ignoring or leaving out the fact that what cost to this docket being kept at head office for a particular period of time. Had it not been the fact that General Mkhwanazi rejected the docket, we wouldn't be sitting here.
A very serious disruption with the administration of justice occurred in the handling of these dockets. think you'd agree with that.
I really don't agree with that, Chair.
I don't understand why, if dockets are not investigated for months, that is interfering with the administration of justice. And I'm not talking about you personally right now, I'm just saying as an objective fact, what happened here was very serious. And it constituted interference with the investigation of active cases.
I fail to reconcile the fact that the evidence leader ignores the fact that these dockets were not being investigated since 2018.
Oh, but that wasn't all. In fact, Sibia continued to face a tough time about who gave and where did he get the directive to disestablish the political killings task team, and where did it come from exactly?
Now, SS9 doesn't call on you to implement the deactivation of the PK. And that's a big issue. It's been a big issue here with previous witnesses, that you went ahead and implemented, gave instructions, this whole debate about moving all these PKTT matters to General Sintumule. Remember, we looked at that letter yesterday in the first paragraph where you say with immediate effect. And you continued to give instructions. You have repeatedly said, I acted on the National Commissioner's instruction as communicated to me through Litoko, which is the normal way in which we communicate. Now, all I'm putting to you, or that I'm discussing with you, is that SS9 doesn't instruct you or even authorize you to implement a deactivation of the PKTT. All it does on a reading, simple reading of it, it says you must communicate the minister's decision and then to the relevant team, and which you do by informing General Khumalo, and then it says submit a close-up report by the 14th of January for the National Commissioner to consider and sign off to the minister. That's all it says. So you could not have been relying on SS9 to implement with immediate effect the deactivation of the PKTT.
May I respond, Chair?
Yes.
When we read SS9, can we also take it along with SS10?
And a lot of concessions coming from Shadrack Sibiya after having to be put into a corner by the evidence leader and the commissioners, and still the motive behind him pushing through with an implementation of plan to disestablish this PKTT coming into sharp focus.
Some of the things may be an error of judgment, but no malice intent was intended. It was just all in the interest of work and making sure that this process does not take too long. Thank you, Chair.
After that long explanation, do you accept that the proper thing to do is to first plan for what's going to happen with the dockets, and then you remove and reallocate dockets? Because you cannot reallocate them to non-existent detectives. When you reallocate them, you must know that there are detectives there who are qualified, who will take over the investigations. Do you accept that the planning must happen before the removal of the dockets? Simple.
I do accept, Commissioner.
And so the way in which the political killings task team operated, also a discussion here at the inquiry. And you'll recall that Dumsani Khumalo, the crime intelligence boss and the leader, project leader of the PKTT, speaking about a particular methodology that they adopted, which is what he claimed is why they had such a high success rate as a task team. But Sibia rubbished this, saying that there's no such thing.
Chair, I know that General Khumalo came here and spoke about methodology, the methodology we use. The methodology they are using is very wrong. and far from being right. Because, and he also mentioned it, and he says, to us as the PKTT, we all own a docket. Nobody can actually work alone on a docket. Yes, I agree. This is when you work with projects like in the DPCI or the old Scorpions or maybe IDEC. Now there you work in teams. Now, you cannot all own one docket.
And so Shadrack Sibiya has this weekend to maybe try and catch his breath because he's not done. He returns to the stand first thing at 9:30 on Monday, where he'll continue his testimony. Still lots to get through. The testimony of witness F likely to come up, where he was the alleged runner, managing and coordinating meetings, but also the relationship between Sibiya and Vusumuzi Cat Madlanga. Lots of questions. Madlanga, you'll recall, went to go visit Sibiya at the police's headquarters. What did they discuss? Was it about that 360 million rand Medicare 24 tender? So many answers that we can look forward to. But for my lot this evening, it's goodbye. Thank you for watching.